Sure.
As though nothing happened here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we'll start at the beginning. Again, if I could get you to say your name.
Bill Fisher,
Can you spell your last name?
Fischer.
And can you tell me your title at work and your title with HSAS?
I'm a deputy superintendent with Regina EMS and advanced care paramedic, and I'm the EMS representative, or one of the EMS representatives for health sciences.
How many representatives are there?
EMS ones, there's
Yeah.
two of us.
There's two?
Yes.
And I guess with all of the other groups that HSAS represents, there are representatives for each one.
Some of the smaller groups, like our music therapists and that, there's only we only have like about 8 of them or so, and a few of the other smaller groups are combined in with some of the other therapy groups.
So, just to give you an idea of what I'm doing right now, I'm recording you just so I can refer back to anything when I write the article. None of this will be used or given to any other media outlet for any purposes. If that should happen, of course, there will be scrutiny by everybody here, and your permission could be asked.
Right.
So I doubt that it'll get to that, but it's always good that I just quickly mention
Yes,
it.
that's fine.
Okay. So when I'm going to just start a bit broader and then work my way in. When somebody looks at the province of Saskatchewan and looks at the number of unions and or health unions, how would you explain how the province is set up in terms of unions and unions representing healthcare workers?
I would say that for Western Canada, it's relatively similar. You primarily, like in BC, Alberta, and Saskatchewan, and not so much in to some degree in Manitoba, is that many of you'll have primarily the nurses union. Then they'll have usually across the 3 provinces, and probably into Manitoba as well, they have QP, which looks after what they refer to themselves as the provider unions. So those are your sort of non-professional healthcare groups that are still very integral, but not what we tend to think of as professional groups, in such that some of the lab techs, everything from cleaning services, food services, through to some of the technologies are within those unions. And then both BC, Alberta, and Saskatchewan have a health sciences association union, and made up primarily the way ours is. Alberta is like ours in that the EMS is within the health sciences. In British Columbia, I'm quite familiar with that, just I worked in BC for 20 years as well, is that the paramedics have their own separate local, they're a QP local but they have the one local for the whole province, so they're a fairly big local, to say the least, because there's like 4,000 members. So as far as that goes, and when you get into Ontario, I think it becomes a little bit more fractured, just because of the sheer size and volume, and Quebec's sort of a bit of a beast unto itself. And I'm sure, actually, if you needed any clarification on that, Dean would be able to tell you, because he spent quite a bit of time with unions in the Quebec area.
So in Saskatchewan, considering the unions that represent other people outside of the province, how many unions are here representing healthcare workers?
Do you want like their son for the nurses, which would be a healthcare union unto itself, but right, then there's the QP has then I believe it's the LPNs in them, which is a fairly large group, and then to some degree the province got, during the Dorsey
Right.
thing got sort of split there, and I wasn't here when that happened. I was still in BC, but some things went to CUPE and some things went to SEIU.
Yeah.
And there's, so those are sort of the split. And there used to be some SGEU members, but I believe they've been absorbed primarily by us. Like they were, actually people like Karen and that, I think they were initially SGEU, because the speech pathologists and some of those type of therapies were in the schools. Like a lot of those people started in working in elementary schools,
Yeah.
but then it was the responsibility for those services was turned over to the health authorities or districts back in the day, and I think they were absorbed. So that's primarily.
It feels like there's 4.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I would say that have of
No.
any consequence.
I'll clear that up with Karen tomorrow.
Yeah.
I'm speaking with
Yeah.
her, but I think it bears to mention, the fact there are other unions
Yes.
representing different groups. I'm going to stop.